have a seat. If you're staying, there's lots of seats over here. In about 10 minutes, there might not be, so I would take advantage now. Thank you all for coming. This is our biannual business lecture series. Today we have an excellent speaker, Jeremy Nocon, and we'll learn a lot more about him. Thank you to all of the distinguished business faculty for, are you cheering for that? For giving extra credit for this particular event. As you all know, I think it's the best event on campus all year, so I'm super happy to have you all again, and super happy to have my staff our colleagues being supportive, and obviously Rory, who's the head of the business division, always supportive of us, so thank you. And Saito, wherever she is, I don't know if she's in here, but thanks for the cookies and the coffee, and yeah, awesome. Now I want to introduce Arav. Arav, where are you? She's going to talk about our Lean In for Entrepreneurs Club, or LIFE. Check.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name's Arav Tatarian, and as she mentioned, a few semesters ago, I started a club here called Lean In for Entrepreneurs, or you may have heard LIFE Club. That's what it's the short version of it. I was inspired by a book called Lean In for Graduates by Sheryl Sandberg. After reading that book, I started looking at my future with a different set of eyes. I started gathering resources, I started changing my habits, and I wanted to network with similar students. I wanted to match my ambitions with others. I wanted to meet people. I wanted us as students, as colleagues, to lean together and grow together. And that's why this club was brought about. And today, we bring in speakers and we do activities, all with the focus of developing leadership skills and practicing the mindset it takes to reach high successes. And we're fortunate enough to have Superwoman as our advisor, or maybe some of you better know her as Marisa Zakaria, right? Please. We are so fortunate. She's such a great leader to have. And she's by our side all along the way, making wonderful events like this possible. If this club sounds interesting to you, if you're interested in joining, just give our website, our school website, a visit. Under clubs, you'll see how to join. There's some contact info. We meet every Tuesday during college hour in CS 266. I'm going to turn it over to Emin. He's going to give you some more pointers on how to get involved on campus.
Yes. Want to join me? The handsome part. Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emin Azarian. I am your student body president. I have with me on stage Thomas and Ida and Sergio. They're officers of the student body. I'm sure most of you know what the student body is, but for those of you that don't, we're a nonprofit located in Glenna Community College. We do various things for our students. Our operating budget is $1.2 million, and we make sure that the student voice is heard on campus. So I'm here to let you guys all know that the application process is open. If you'd like to join us, and if you'd like to be part of the student body, you can apply to be a senator, like Thomas, Ida, or Sergio. The website is glenna.edu/as. It looks great on your application, and you get to kind of give back and help out your college. So with that said, I want to thank you. I also want to thank Marisa Zakaria, and I want to thank Arav for letting me kind of give this little plug-in. All right? Thank you, and I'm going to throw it back to Marisa.
Thank you, guys. Okay, am I back live? Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Now, I'm super excited to introduce you all to my good friend, Jeremy Nocon. Come on up, Jeremy. He is the VP of Business Development at Jim Henson, and an amazing guy, and I respect him so much, and I know after this you guys will too, so come on. Go ahead. So we're going to kind of run this a little differently than we have past lectures. Jeremy says to me, why don't you tell him?
So I really love this program. It's I really do believe that everyone graduating, all students going into the workforce should have an entrepreneurship mentality. It's really big right now in terms of succeeding and finding your place in your career. But when Marissa asked me to do this, I do a lot of speaking engagements for Henson, and I'm always talking about the company. This is the first time I've ever actually had to talk about myself, so this is a little weird. But she said, like you could do a PowerPoint presentation. I was like, that's boring. I'd rather kind of just talk to you guys, tell you guys my story. My story is really quite different. It's kind of non-traditional in terms of how I got to where I am today in entertainment. I didn't start off in entertainment. I was actually an attorney at one point, and I never fully practiced. I passed the bar exam, and we can get into it later, but it's quite interesting. But right now, what I do for the Henson Company is I'm Vice President of Business Development for the Jim Henson's Creature Shop. How many people are familiar with the Jim Henson Company? The Muppets, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. So the Jim Henson's Creature Shop is one of the largest divisions of the company, and it's comprised of 3 different locations, offices. We've got a New York office, an office here in LA, and then we also have an animation studio. And what we focus on is visual effects in the entertainment industry. We provide practical and visual digital effects for the entertainment industry. And what I do is, my job is to run the operations for that division of the company. First and foremost, we're a creative arm for the Henson Company. So any internal projects that the Jim Henson Company is producing or developing, that's our primary function. But when we're not doing that, I've got to be pounding the pavement, meeting people, trying to set up deals, working with the rest of the entertainment industry to do third-party service work, collaborations. So it spans different industries. It's film, television. There's a lot of commercials that you guys probably don't know that we've worked on and we've helped create. Music. How many people are familiar with Deadmau5 and Lady Gaga? We've done a lot of work with them. We get to work a lot with artists because of our ability to create characters and do practical effects and also do animation. And then one new area of business that we've really jumped into is themed entertainment. How many people are familiar with themed entertainment? How many people have gone to Universal Studios? So themed entertainment, for all you young entrepreneurs, it's one of the most thriving businesses right now. Globally, they are throwing billions of dollars into themed entertainment. As our population continues to grow worldwide, you've got to create spaces, attractions, places where people can congregate and get entertained. And themed entertainment is one of those solutions. So as you guys are looking for careers and how to get your career started, look in the themed entertainment industry. There's lots of opportunities there and a lot of transferable skills that you're learning here that can apply in that area.
Thank you. Awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about you being a lawyer. I find this incredibly interesting to me because I kind of took a similar path that I'm a CPA and I never really practiced public accounting. So I love it. And I love how a lot of our students will do things in college that they may do something completely different when they're out in the real world. So tell us a little bit about where are you from and how has that shaped your life so far?
Well, I'm from back east. I grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. And growing up from back east, I've gained a lot of street smarts, and it's really shaped and helped me out in my career. But along the lines of how I became an attorney, I come from a family of attorneys, like a long line of attorneys in my family, both on my mom and my dad's side. My grandfather was an attorney, so from birth I was tapped to be an attorney, and I was into it. I loved it. I was at a young age. I was reading case law with my grandpa, in the summers. So I was we were studying cases, and when I got to law school, after my first year in law school, I realized the only thing I love about being an attorney is actually being in court and talking and trying to convince people that my point of view or what I'm arguing is right. Like that was the only thing I really loved. Like I didn't like any of the administration, like all the paperwork they had to do. Like I couldn't see that as the rest of my life. Luckily, I had an entertainment law professor. My first year, it was a night class. It was like one of those 2-hour classes from 8 to 10 at night. And at the end of the first class, I asked him, I said, look, I'm thinking about dropping out of law school because I want to do film and entertainment. I want to work in entertainment. Like growing up, I loved movies, TV. Like I was a kid that always wondered how they created it, rather than just being entertained by it. I was entertained first, but as I watched it again and again, I wanted to know how they made it and how it actually was produced. So I was speaking with my entertainment law professor, Professor Murphy, and he's an entertainment lawyer in New York, lots of good clients. And I told him, look, I'm going to drop out. I think I want to go to film school. He said, wait, what do you want to do in entertainment? And I said, I think I want to produce and make movies. I don't want to direct. He's like, well, if you want to produce, don't go to film school. He said, stay in law school, pass your bar exam, and it'll show the rest of the entertainment industry that you've got a strong skill set. You have the mindset and the intellect to actually work in the industry. And a lot of what you learn in terms of skills in negotiating, setting up deals, understanding how to actually create and develop relationships are all transferable. So after having a long conversation with my dad, because that was the conversation I dreaded, telling him that I wasn't going to be a lawyer. We made a deal. He said, I don't care what you do with the rest of your life. Finish law school, pass the bar exam. I just want to be able to say that my son's an attorney. And that was our deal. So, fast forward 2 years, I passed the bar exam in New Jersey, so I can actually go work as an attorney, but my aspirations are to work in entertainment. How does this guy living in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, break into the entertainment industry? The entertainment industry was just starting to build in Philadelphia, the neighboring city, because a lot of films were shooting there. So I reached out to the Philadelphia Film Commission, did some work with them in the office. I finally connected with, even before then, I was working on independent film sets, like a lot of small, low-budget film sets, learning what to do and more often than not, what not to do when you're making a movie. And I took it all with a grain of salt. I started off as a PA. The minute they all found out I was an attorney, they all promoted me to like an associate producer because I could do contracts and I could negotiate location agreements. So my career in independent film in Philadelphia started growing, and then I latched on with this company called Cat Scratch Films, which was also run by a woman who was a former attorney in Alabama, and she was like a top flight prosecutor in Alabama who gave it all up to be a producer, director, and run her own film company in Philadelphia. So I worked for her, and I learned so much. And we had done a couple short films, and then after our first real feature film, which we shot for like 4 months in Mississippi, I decided I'm gonna go to LA after this film. And this is about like a 3-year span of me trying to figure out whether I can go to LA, because you hear all the horror stories of people moving out from their hometown, coming to Los Angeles, trying to make this dream happen, coming home because it just didn't happen for them. And and during that 3-year period, I always kind of went back and forth. Am I ever going to do it? Am I going to do it? So I finally made the commitment that after this film, I'm going to move to LA. So I did that. So I get to LA, end of 2007. And let's say I didn't move to LA at the right time. In 2008, there was a writer's strike. And then in 2009, there was the economy went down the drain. So and when I first got here, I was getting interviews left and right. A lot with the studios, the agencies. They all wanted to put me in their business and legal affairs. Some of them wanted to pay for me to go get the California bar exam so I could actually start practicing for them. But law, as I told you guys, it wasn't in my cards. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be on the business and legal side of it. I wanted to be on the producing, creative side of it. And I even passed up a job at CAA. Is everyone familiar with the Creative Artists Agency? So I passed up a job there. They're one of the biggest agencies. Their head of, their vice president of motion picture lit at the time was looking for someone to groom. He was looking for an assistant to a groom. So I'd basically be an assistant for a number of years. And he even told me at one point after our third interview, he's like, look, I want to give you this job, but it doesn't seem like this is what you want to do with your life. So I ended up not taking that job. I'm still living on savings in between 2007 and 2009. And I've been offered at one point in 2009 this to do 2 independent films, one in Louisiana and one in Mississippi. Because of what I had done in Philadelphia and the reputation I had created in independent film, people started to, hear about me and what I could do and how well I worked on their projects. So I was able to, my name got passed around the network to the network of people, and I was all excited. These 2 films came at the right time. Money was going, my bank account was just dwindling, and I remember this day. It was the day I was picking up my older brother from the airport. He was supposed to spend the weekend, and it was supposed to be a fun weekend. I get a call from the producers saying that both projects have been pulled. The funding, the hedge fund that was funding both projects, pulled out. So, at this point, I have no more. I don't have money coming in. I'm trying to figure out what to do, and. I remember that night I was looking, and I've been looking for jobs, like 2009, between 2008 2009, I was looking hard for jobs. Every entertainment career website that you could go to, I was scouring it every night. And I just wasn't getting calls because the industry, the jobs were getting so scarce. And the industry, the entertainment industry, if you guys don't know, is it's already so hard to break into. You have to figure out a way to kind of differentiate yourself and set yourself from everyone else so you can get noticed. And I remember that night that I picked up my brother. It was 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And I go back online and I come across the job posting for the Henson Company. And, wow, the Jim Henson Company. I was a fan of dinosaurs. I don't know if anyone remembers that TV show. It was on TGI Fridays. Yeah, Not the Mama.
Not the Mama.
So that was I was a fan of dinosaurs more so than the Muppets or Fraggle Rock or anything else. And I was I could go work for this company. And they had called it a sales associate position. And I said, that's kind of up my alley. I can sell. But before, when I was deciding, all right, how am I going to get noticed? What am I going to do so I can get noticed? How can my resume stand apart from the rest? What I did was, one thing I learned in law school was always know your audience. Who are you talking to? When you send out a resume, who are you talking to? Who's going to be reading your resume? I looked at it like this. This is I'm applying for an entertainment company that's very creative. I'm going to do a cover letter that is set up just like a script. How many people have seen a script and the format for a script? So I started off as interior day office, hiring manager, young, good-looking, clearly overworked, but in need of a raise, sits behind 2 monumental stacks of papers, is reading a resume cover letter in front of him, shakes his head, crumples it up, gracefully throws it over his shoulder, floating into the wastebasket. Out of the right stack, stick out 2 papers. He tugs at it and he reads it. It's my resume, of course. And and he's looking at it, and it says, "Hi, I'm Jeremy Nocon. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I've done this, and this." So it kind of goes into my spiel, like the standard cover letter that everyone sends out, right? And then it breaks, and he looks at the phone, keeps reading, looks at the phone again, keeps reading, finally picks up the phone, and then in big, bold sequence, he starts dialing my number, 609. And then it goes ring, ring, and I pick up and says, "Hi, this is Jeremy," and it says, "To be continued." So the next day I got a call from the Jim Henson Company. They called me. They said, "Hey, we want to have you come in for an interview." I went in for an interview. It was one of the most craziest interviews I've ever been in, because I walk into this giant conference room. There's this mural there with all the Henson characters that was commissioned, and this giant conference room table like the length of the stage. And I'm sitting on one end, and there's 3 executives on the other. And the first thing they said to me was, "So, you want to be a writer?" And I said, no. But they were really excited at the fact that I chose I took that opportunity to find a way to stand out, right? And to really kind of, and also let them know about me, my mindset, and the kind of hustle I have. That was one of the things that they asked me. I went through 3 rounds of interviews with the company. And the one thing they always ask me, they're like, "Well, what are you going to bring to this job?" Because they told me what the job was. Like, my job was to develop new business for the Creature Shop, for all the offices of the Creature Shop, to redevelop our commercial work so that we were doing a lot more commercials domestically and internationally, and just come up with new business models. And the one thing I told them, I said, "I don't have any experience in this. Like, I've never worked with characters, never worked with in animation, puppets, none of that, like creatures. I didn't have that background." What I did tell them was that there's no one who's going to hustle harder and more every day than me. That was the one thing I told them. I said, "I'm going to work hard every day to close a deal." Because to me, like, there's no better feeling than closing a deal, especially developing a deal, because that's what I do. My job at the company is to generate and develop deals and create opportunities out of thin air where there's no where an opportunity didn't exist 5 minutes ago. So, like, that's why you have to stay informed. You have to stay connected, especially in my line of work. I read the trades. If something comes up that, okay, so-and-so's doing a movie, and that could utilize our creative services, my first instinct is I need to go talk to them. I need to figure out which one of my friends knows someone at that company so that I'll call them. They can get me connected. I can get a meeting. I can get a lunch, whatever, and I'm relentless. So until I get that face-to-face or that phone call. So, but going back to my story, what's interesting is that even after the 3 rounds of interviews, even after meeting Brian Henson and making it to the top 2, and Brian himself even told me, he said, my cover letter is the most creative thing he's seen in terms of a job situation. I still didn't get the job. So I didn't get the job at the Henson Company the first go around. And the reason why I'm telling you this is the one thing I learned being out here. I've been living in Los Angeles for almost 10 years now, and you got to ask yourself, how badly do you want this? How badly do you want to achieve your career goals, your career aspirations? How badly do you want to make it happen? When they didn't give me the job, I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, a friend of mine. I'm really big into fitness. Like, I'm always training for something. And a friend of mine said, "Look," because I was literally going to go home like next week, like that. Like, I'm having this conversation with my friend Ashley, and I was like, I think I'm going to pack up and go back to New Jersey. And she said, "Well, look, why don't you figure out how to keep yourself out here, and just so that you can keep going after entertainment." And she said, "Why don't you start training people and become a trainer?" So. I thought to myself, okay, like, look, this is my last-ditch effort. I kind of knew people at LA Fitness that could get me a training sales position. They got me that. I was working at LA Fitness, and I was also getting my training certification at the time. and I'm doing this for like a 6-month period. I start training, like word of mouth starts growing about what, like my training, and I start gaining like a big clientele. And at one point, and then towards the end, I get recruited by Equinox. People, I don't know if you guys, everyone's familiar with Equinox. It's one of the high-end gyms, and I had chatted up someone at LA Fitness who had worked there, and they said, look, you have like the training and the personality that we need in terms of our trainers at Equinox. So they recruited me, and this is 6 months have passed, and they've recruited me, and they interviewed me, and they said, look, Jeremy, we want to hire you, but it looks like you've got all this entertainment stuff on your resume. And I was like, just forget about that. I'm going to be the best trainer you guys, like I'm done with entertainment. I'm going to be the best trainer you guys have. I'm so committed to this. So cut to 2 weeks, I'm in my orientation training at Equinox. And I get a call on my cell phone from Henson, and it's the Henson company. They call me, and it's one of the directors from HR, and she's like, "Hey, Jeremy, no hard feelings. Are you still interested in meeting with us?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm not mad." I was like, "I'll come meet with you guys." So literally I actually had to time it out because I was working that day at Equinox on Sunset in West Hollywood. I had to time it out where during my break, I ran down to my car in the garage, got changed in the parking lot, went down 2 miles to the Henson studio lot, interviewed again. And in my interview, it was really more low key. I was in someone's office. There was there was 3 executives there, and the interview was more of them asking me. They were putting me in scenarios and situations that apparently the person who had the job before me didn't quite excel in and didn't make the right choices in, and the interview lasted for like 30 minutes, and I was like, all right, maybe nothing happens. And the next day, I get an email on the call, and they say that your offer letter is and you're going to get it via email, and I haven't looked back since. I've been at the Henson Company since 2009, and I started off as a director. The job was actually for a sales associate, and they started me off with the title of director. And what's crazy to me is the entertainment industry, it's very much a ladder system. It's very corporate in that you have to start off as an assistant and work your way up to like a coordinator, a director, or director of development, to all these junior positions before you can actually get to an executive level. And I'm training guys younger than me, guys and girls younger than me that are already directors of development at various production companies. And I'm saying to myself, man, am I ever going to make it? And to see the offer letter and have the title director of development was huge. That too, I literally catapulted 4 levels. And I wasn't an assistant. I was never a traditional assistant for anybody. So a lot of what when I took the job, and this goes to being entrepreneurial, you kind of have to just go with it. Kind of, that saying, fake it till you make it. Like, you kind of have to do that. Like, I didn't know anything about characters. I didn't know, like, this wasn't my genre. This wasn't my industry. Like, I knew how to produce a film. I knew how to get a film off the ground. That's what I knew. But working in this niche area of visual effects, I didn't know. So I had to learn. And the one thing with my legal training, lawyers are very much, they're jack of all trades, but they're not necessarily masters of none except the law. Because you have to learn everything if you're doing a case that involves cosmetics, you're going to learn everything about that cosmetics brand. If it's a products liabilities case, right? But you'll never know enough to be an expert at it. But you're trained as a lawyer to learn quickly. So what I did was I just adapted and I learned. I try to learn as much as I can, soak it all in. I tried to surround myself with people much smarter than I, more talented than me, and I talked to everybody. Like the people, my boss that I worked with, he kind of groomed me along, and he's like, look, in 2 weeks, you're going to know everything you need to know how to operate in this business. And, the first year was a little bumpy. But I was closing deals. Apparently the person before me wasn't closing deals at all. I was developing and closing deals. And I started getting hooked. I was like, man, I love this feeling of closing deals. When you guys get out there and you actually develop a deal and close it and get people to sign on the dotted line and actually see the go from deal to actual fruition and you see the finished product, it's such a good feeling. And once I started to get my feet under me and really understand what this job was about, my job is I'm very much an entrepreneur for what I do for Henson. I have to be. I'm basically running 3 small business offices. Because when we're not doing work for Henson, we have to operate kind of on our own and bring in projects so that we can keep the doors and the lights open. Luckily, I have the Henson brand behind that so that people won't just hang up on me when I call them. But it's very much, I have to be very much a self-starter. There's so many projects that I've worked on where they were never even on our radar and we weren't on their radar. And there's got to be someone that has to connect the dots. And that's what I do. And one of the other things that I do for the company is I create new business models. I mentioned to you guys themed entertainment. We weren't doing anything in themed entertainment for up until 5 years ago. We had dabbled in it, but nothing concrete. And when I looked at the creative services that we could offer, I had to figure out how could we leverage this for the themed entertainment industry. So I came up with some concepts, made some connections, started networking, and then we had this really big project with Hershey Company for their theme park in Pennsylvania, Hershey's Chocolate World. And then from there, we started getting more and more projects. I was just talking to someone, it was Brenda in the audience. I was talking to Brenda, who works in themed entertainment as well. I was just at IAAPA. IAAPA is the big themed entertainment conference that's attended by all the major studios and theme parks. And it was fun for me to see so many people that I knew and all the connections that I had as I walked the floor or just walked from the hotels adjacent to the convention centers. How we've managed to build a reputation and all these relationships that have now created a business model for my department. So, in a sense, very much what I do is entrepreneurial, but I'm doing it within the corporate structure.
That's awesome. I didn't even know half of that, so that's amazing. Okay, now we're going to get really specific. So tell us about a project that you most loved, your favorite project ever that you've worked on.
There's a lot. There's literally a lot. One of the ones that I'm most proud of is how many people remember the Grammys a couple years ago when Lady Gaga came in on those vessels. So that was the big talk of the big talk of the night and the next morning. Gaga's when she was touring and she was touring globally around the world. We worked with her a lot, creating a lot of set pieces for her concerts and her tours. I got a call right after the holidays. It was January, and Gaga does this thing where she'll get one of her people to call you, but then as soon as they get you on the phone, they'll give it to her so that you can't say no. And she had told us, hey, I've got this idea for my next performance. I really want to work with you guys on it. And I was like, great, sounds like a great concept. Let's do it. I was like, when's your performance? And she's like, the Grammys. So I Google Grammys, and it's like, and I was like, oh wow, this is in 4 weeks. The Grammys are in 4 weeks. And she's like, do you have enough time? And I was like, I think we can figure it out. We can make it work. So we ran 2 crews day and night, working with their art director and their creative team on realizing Gaga's performance. And because when she came in on the red carpet, she came in on one vessel, and then she had to have a second vessel for the stage that actually armadilloed up so that she could exit out of it. And when during those 4 weeks, like our crews were just working around the clock. Her art director came, visited one day, and she said, Jeremy, she's like, I know you guys are working so hard. And we couldn't tell anyone. Like, I couldn't even tell my mom. Because we were sworn to secrecy about it. The thing I could tell my mom was that, hey, watch the Grammys tomorrow. Like, something cool is going to happen. Gaga's art director tells me, she's like, don't worry, it's all going to be worth it. This is what people are going to be talking about anytime they talk about the Grammys in terms of a retrospective. Like, this will always be something that people point to in terms of all of like the pomp and circumstance that surround the Grammys. And lo and behold, like the day of, everything happens. They gave us credit actually on the red carpet. They mentioned working with us on the project because I didn't even know if we could mention it. And so the next day, it's big news. Like, people are talking about it. It's like all over morning talk show. My mom calls me and she's like, hey, can I tell people that you worked on it? Because my mom works in this like little like office and all her friends in their cubicles are like talking about the Grammys, and she just wants to be able to say that my son did that. Like my son helped develop that. So, and I was like, yeah, go ahead. They gave us credit. So that to me was a special project because one thing I love about my job is that what we do becomes part of pop culture. Like for 20, 30 years from now, when people are talking about the Grammys, like that's something that may come up. Like people would say, yeah, remember that one time? And so we've now become part of pop culture. So like that's something that's really exciting for me. Working on Jungle Book Jungle Book, we didn't do anything except provide reference puppets. But so did people see Jungle Book, the new film last year? So we actually that was completely CG except for the young actor Neil who played Mowgli, and I was super excited because I'm a big fan of Jon Favreau. Like Swingers is one of my favorite movies of all time, and being able to work with him, but also being working on such a big production, but we only had this really small part in it by providing these reference characters, reference puppets for Neil to act against or act off of, like in real time, that would essentially all got replaced by CG. We're so excited to be a part of it. And I remember I was in bed working, and I was watching one of the late night talk shows, and John's on, he's getting interviewed, and all of a sudden, I don't even think they're going to mention us at all. And he mentions us. I was like he mentioned working with the Jim Henson's Creature Shop and the Jim Henson Company and what we did. And then it became a big platform, and it became part of their marketing. So for us, that was huge. For me, this small little project that we did in terms of having only minimal involvement in the end result, because it's not what you saw on screen. It was actually it was so much bigger in its impact, especially on what we do and our business, and now it's actually generated more business for us. So it's interesting how sometimes the smallest projects or smallest deals, whatever it is that it may be, how it could have a resounding impact. So you have to look at it in terms of the long-term play rather than the short-term.
The Jungle Book. I haven't seen that. Who's seen that movie? Awesome. I saw the animated. Yeah. I guess when you have a toddler, you don't get out as much as you used to. Anyway, well, thank you. So you told us what you like most, I think, is closing the deal, right?
Yes.
So what do you like least about what you do?
Waiting to close the deal. Seriously, that's I spend so much time developing and trying to, just trying to make the initial contact and get someone on the phone or get someone to talk to me or meet me in person. Then, once you get past that and you actually get to the point where, okay, let's start talking like logistics. What are we going to do? How are we going to collaborate? What are the creative requirements? You then have to settle on cost and time frame and actually get a deal done. So to me, that's the part that I hate the most. Is that anticipation, because for what I do, I'm a big believer that I have to eat, sleep, breathe business development. Like I wake up every day trying to figure out how am I going to close another deal, because I try. Like my goal is to close a deal a week. It's not realistic all the time, but that's my goal. That's what motivates me. Is how do I develop and close a deal a week? And but the waiting part of it is it's the most agonizing part of my job. But once it's done, it's all good from there.
Thanks. I have a few more questions, but I almost want to throw it back in a minute. But I do want to ask two questions before I do that. A lot of my students now, especially my communication students, we're about to do for our final mock interviews. And one of the questions that they're going to get inevitably will be, where do you see yourself in 10 years? So, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I can answer that in two ways. When I started at the company at Henson, they asked me that same thing. They asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I told them, in 5 years, I see myself running a team of other business development people so that I have a team of business development associates that are all developing projects in different industries and genres. Now, and I'm almost it took longer than 5 years. So, but that's kind of what I'm building right now at Henson. But if I see, to answer your question, where I see myself 10 years from now, ultimately, I've got a lot of big aspirations and goals. I'm still very much writing my story. I've got a great career. I've crafted a really great career for myself so far, but there's so much more I want to do. Ultimately, in 10 years, I want to run my own production company and start making my own movies again. Right now, I'm helping other people make their movies. So I'd love to get back out there and start producing my own films again.
So I think I'm going to leave the last question for the very end. And I'm going to throw it out to you guys. I think I still have the mic here. Marco, mic's still alive? Okay, cool. So Emin or Arav, Arav, you want to help me out? Maybe kind of, if you have a question.
Check.
Cool. There's a mic. Please raise your hand. And Jeremy's here to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, guys, feel free to ask me anything. For me, one of the things, I wish I had this lecture series when I was in school. To better ask somebody, how did you actually break in, and actually get that, and try to kind of walk away with something from that. So feel free to ask me whatever you want.
So in terms of moving up in a company, when do you take the initiative?
So that's a good question. I was actually just having a conversation with Rory when we were sitting down earlier, that the first thing is you have to figure out, once you get the job, right, what's your goal within that company. So for me, when I started at Henson, I said, I want to be an executive. I want an executive title in 5 years. So I needed to figure out how to get from A to B. So what I looked at was, during the course of those 5 years, how could I make myself so valuable to the company that they can't say no? And what I did was, anytime another opening came up, or the company was put out there that, hey, look, we've got a set of duties in the company that someone needs to assume, I always raise my hand. I said, I'll take it. I always say yes to everything, and sometimes to a fault. They're like, look, we've got an opening with our production manager position. We can get you another production manager, or do you want to? Or you could assume that role as well. You could assume those duties. I was like, put it on my plate. It'll actually help me do my business better. Because now, and this is what's different about my career is in business development. Traditionally in business development is you develop the deal and you wipe your hands clean of it and you give it off to another team. You pass it off to your production team. I actually became the pseudo producer for the Creature Shop. Whenever we were working on commercials, films, I was the one dealing directly with the clients because I assumed that title or I assumed the roles of a production manager. So in that sense, I made myself valuable so much so to the company that it really started to show like my value and worth. And I was basically doing the job of like 3 people, but they're only paying 1 person to do it. So there came a point where I had to really, I had to kind of step in and say, okay, I had to put my foot down and say, look, I want to become an executive. Like I want to move up. I want a vice president title. And how do I do that? Like, what do I need to make happen? My boss gave me the best advice when I talked to him about this, because I've got a really great relationship with my current boss. We have a really open dialogue about what I want to see happen in my career within the company. We talk about it openly. And he told me, he's like, here's what you should do. Ask us what you need to achieve within the year to become, so that we can give you that promotion. I didn't go into his office demanding that, hey, I need a promotion or I'm leaving tomorrow. I told him, I was like, look, at the end of the year, I want to be promoted to vice president. You guys tell me what I need to achieve to get there, what I need to do to get that. And they laid out a plan. They said, you need to achieve this, this, and this. And I did that. So I became vice president. So in terms of moving up, yes, it works, the strong arm tactic, but there's ways to get what you want and to achieve your goals without being pushy and just being earnest about it, just working hard, but having those conversations up front. And my biggest advice to you guys in terms of when you are in the workplace, don't assume that everyone's waiting to give you a promotion. Like that's not what your employers are sitting there like, oh, I want to promote him tomorrow or promote her today. They're not thinking that. Like you have to make that known. You've got to be proactive in your career. You can't sit back and wait for someone to give you that next title or that pay increase. You have to let it be known, but don't go about it in a way where you're threatening. Go about it in a way where it's like, what do I need to do to get that? I'm hoping that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, my question is, you said that you read the trades and then try to contact people with projects in the trades. I would have thought that by the time a project makes it into the trades, those people have already decided who they're going to work with.
Well, that's why you've got to dig deep in the trades. There's a lot, I'm always looking for the projects in development, or if a writer or director has signed on to do a project. If I know that I've got ties to a director and that they're going to do this project that could utilize our creative services, then that's when I connect the dots. And that's when that all of a sudden becomes a lead for me. I'm very visual. If you guys ever visit my office, in both of my offices, I have a giant whiteboard where I have all of my projects listed. They're all written out, and I have a little indicator of what phase it is, the project's in. I have an L for lead, P for pending, and A for active. So I know at any given time, as a snapshot, I can look at that board. I know what projects I have going and what I need to chase up. Because and it's it's in my face every day. Because and when the board starts to empty out, that's when I know I got to kick it into another gear. Because I should be generating leads constantly. Like that's my mindset.
Well, not to put you on the spot, but maybe our life club, that could be one of our field trips
Yes,
semester.
Yeah. No,
I've been there. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I was
So.
about to ask, is that an invitation?
Yeah, you guys. I'd definitely love to give you guys a tour.
Cool. Any other questions?
I think there's.
Oh, another one here?
A second question. If you leave the company in 10 years to start your own company, is your former employer going to resent that? Like they trained you, sort of?
That's a good question. I think it's all on how you exit a company. There's ways to gracefully exit a company. I'm a big believer in never burning a bridge. So, and right now, I love what I do at Henson. I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. But if I were to ever leave, I would definitely try to leave gracefully. Because I have so much great relationships over there, like those bonds and the relationships that I've created within the company and outside the company, I wouldn't want to burn those. And if anything, I'd want to figure out how to work with them, and use those relationships so that I can get films off the ground in my own company.
And what I've seen in my career too, to piggyback on that, is sometimes they create a position for you so you don't leave. So if you want to be a producer, like, you know what, we're going to start a new arm of our business and you're going to be the head executive producer making the films. Yeah. So sometimes that, if you're that good and they love you,
exactly.
they'll do that for you.
It happens a lot, yes.
So, but you got to make it known.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. More questions?
I think there's a question over there.
Over here? Oh, Antoinette, over.
So my question is, considering the fact that we're all at a community college, a lot of us are at different places or different walks in our lives. Mm-hmm. In regards to time, what would your advice be for a student who is in school and one of their focuses is to graduate, but another one of their focuses is to get into the industry? How would you counsel a full-time or even part-time student in learning how to balance or prioritize when your heart and your passion is to be in the industry, but there is a responsibility or something that influences you to stay in school?
Mm-hmm. I think there's no easy answer to that. I think as students who are trying to break into whatever industry you're trying to break into, take advantage of internships. Internships do lead to a lot of opportunities. One, they're great resume builders, and you can. There's a lot of flex internships too. I basically had interns work for me for 3 years before I decided on hiring an assistant. Because I wanted to right now, my assistant, she's been with me for a full year now, but and she interned for me a couple years ago, and I went through different interns, and it's a way for employers to kind of test you out. But it's also a way for you as the intern to gain knowledge, build relationships, network, and there's a lot of internships that don't require you to be there 40 hours a week. I ran my flex internship. We ran. I said, how many days? If I thought you had the skills, you had the mindset, you were qualified, I would. Even though I said in my posting it required 4 days a week or 5 days a week, I always asked, what can you do? Like how many hours a day or how many days of the week could you give me? And if it was 2, 3, I'm happy to take it. Because I'm a big believer in giving people, especially folks that are just trying to break into the industry, the opportunity. Because it's a catch-22. We were talking about it outside. How do you get a job in any industry when the requirements is experience? And how do you get experience if no one's giving you the opportunity to get the job without it? So internships are really a great entry point, and it's low-hanging fruit. It's there. You just have to seek them out.
Thank you.
My question is: so a lot of us aspiring students, we may have trouble finding what are our passions or what we really want to do in life. And I just love how. You have your passion, and despite you studied law, you wanted to go into entertainment, and despite your resume was lacking, you didn't have a lot of experience compared to your competitors getting that job, yet you were confident. Where did that confidence come from? What helped you to stay on track with like, no, this is what I really want? Keep that eye on that apple the whole time.
That's a good question. You know, for me, it's you got to ask yourself, like, what motivates you, right? Like, why do you get up out of bed every day? You know, and for me, it's my career. Like, I'm very driven in what I want to achieve. Like I said, I'm still very much writing my story. I'm still very much in the middle of my career. I even told Marissa when I saw the flyer, I was like, "Wow, you guys, that's above and beyond. You know, that's just way too much promotion." But I appreciated it. But knowing what you want and just being super focused on it. Like I'm so focused on what it is that I want to achieve in my career, in my life, that it's always kept my eye on the target. Even when I took one step forward and 3 steps back, there were these moments where I got gut checked and said, you know, how badly do you want this? You know, I'm very close with my family. For me to pick up all my belongings, go 3,000 miles away from my family, not have a job. One thing I said to myself was, you got this far, like, just keep going, like, figure out how to make it happen. And, you know, for many of you guys in this room, I'm assuming you guys are all local residents. So you actually have a leg up on a lot of the folks that are coming here from other states. So, like, take advantage of that. Like, and it's really, you got to find what's passionate, what you know, what drives you. Like, I'm passionate about film, television, everything entertainment. Like, you know, my end goal when I see what I'm going to do at the end of my career, I have an idea of what that's going to look like and what I want to achieve, but it's not going to be a straight route. Like this, if anything, what I've learned from the last 10 years of my life, that it's not a straight route. I was talking to someone outside earlier, and when I was young, I said by 30 I'm going to make my first $1 million. That didn't happen. So, and I turned 40 in 2 years. Oh, in a year and a half, I turned 40, and I don't even bother thinking about that. So, it's a lot of it is, it takes time, it takes effort, and you have to persevere. So, find what you're passionate about and just stay focused on that. Like, tell yourself every day, how do I get one step closer to that? Because it's incremental steps. It's never one giant leap. It's always incremental.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you convince people to close deals with you? Because that seems pretty, like, for me as a person, I'm not the best talker.
You know what it is? When I was in law, again, I really have to credit my legal training. I took a class on active listening. A lot of times, like, you might have conversations with friends or people you don't know, and you ever wonder whether they're actually listening? You know, if you listen to what people are actually saying, you can kind of like sift through the weeds and find out what they actually mean, and what they're looking for and what they want. And that's what I do. I actively listen. You know, rather than trying to tell people what I want to do, I come at it very much from the point of like, look, how do we make this work? I think I've been successful because I don't like doing deals that are just wholly beneficial to one side, and that being my side. I want to do a deal where it's fair to everyone. Like, someone gets something out of it. In my line of work, repeat business is the best business. If I have a client for life or years, that's better than making a giant sum of money on one deal and then not having that client forever. So I'd rather have consistency throughout it, in terms of how I close my deals. But in terms of what I do, a lot of it is just being personable, active listening, and really trying to figure out what they want and how to give that to them, and how to make that happen. You're always going to haggle back and forth on cost and price and timeline, but there's a way. I actually really like negotiating. To me, it's fun. It's fun to. I'm a middle child, so we would negotiate like the last piece of chicken. So at dinner. So that, and that was me. So like, you got to just tap into it. And I'll tell you this much: I've developed it. Like I didn't start off like feeling very confident in closing deals and developing deals. I wasn't doing it before I got to Henson. I was I had legal training. I could talk in a room and convince you that I was right, or hope to convince you I was right. But in terms of closing deals, that's an art form. So it's practice, and it's really practice and paying attention to all the situations you're in when you are actually trying to close a deal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we can probably take the last 2 questions here, and then we'll cut it off.
Just a quick question. I know you have so much work to do and like a lot on your plate. Do you have time for yourself, or just to visit your family, or just kind of do your own thing?
Yes,
you
yeah, no.
like you're just always really busy.
No, I do, and you have you have to make time for yourself, or you'll go crazy. I visit I get to see my family every time I travel back east. Because one of my offices is in New York. So when I go to New York, I pop on down to New Jersey and I spend a day with my family. And then for the holidays, like Christmas, I'm going back there for 10 days. So, I've got my friends, that I see them all the time. Like, I have to make time. And I work in a lot of different time zones because I've got clients internationally. So my life's a little weird because I'm up at 2, 3 in the morning, still on Skype with a client. But for that client, knowing that I'm up at that time of the day, it makes them feel that, wow, if I do this deal with Jeremy, he'll always be there for me. He'll take care of me. He won't let this project fail. So to answer your question about how I close deals, I'm very conscious of how the client feels all the way throughout until we actually get the deal done, and even after we get the deal done, because I don't want them. I don't want to underdeliver on the promises that I made.
And then if you pass it down, just 3 people that way, and then.
Hi. So my question is to you. It's basically about when you find yourself a new deal that you're thinking about accomplishing. What have you found that most clients want? What is something that you can look at another business person and say right away, I know this is something that you want and something that you keep in mind, your basically baseline to build up from, I guess. Well,
it's funny. Most clients want faster and cheaper. So that's kind of the thing. But in terms of what you find, in my industry, it's so different. I'm involved in so many different industries within entertainment or genres that all the deals are kind of different. Some of the commercial deals are similar, but the one constant is that they're coming to the Henson Company and the Jim Henson's Creature Shop because of the name and the reputation. They want the value that we bring. And they want, they expect that. You have to deliver on that. It's great that, I work for the Henson Company and I can use that to open doors for me. But there's also that onus and responsibility on me and my team that we have to deliver. Because of that, you have to deliver. You have to live up to your reputation and your brand.
Awesome.
And just and then the last thing I wanted to ask is, what do you keep in mind for yourself that you don't let them bulldoze you and get past your goals as well?
Well, in terms of when I'm closing a deal,
yes,
you just got to be stern. You got to be firm about your position, about what you want. That's it. It's I always say, even if you don't know the answer, at least sound like you know it. Have conviction and confidence in what you're saying. Because if you're teetering and you're wishy-washy on an answer, no one's gonna believe you. But have confidence in how you say it and what you say.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So if I can just keep you for 2 more minutes, and I promise I'll let you go to your next class, which I know you're all eager to go to. Do you have any final words for the students?
Yeah, the one thing I want to leave you guys with is, don't let anybody outwork you. That's the biggest thing. There's always going to be somebody with a better resume, who came from a better school, who had more opportunities growing up and access to opportunities, or in a better position than you. Just don't let anybody outwork you. That's the one thing you can control. For this job, there was probably 10, 20 other people who had better resumes than I. And they could have had this job. But I outworked them in the interviews, and then when I got the job, I'm outworking my competition. So, don't let anybody outwork you. You work hard every day. You're going to get closer and closer to your goals.
Awesome.
So that's.
I agree, 1,000%. So thank you all. We have a gift for him, so let me go grab that quick.
A gift.
All right, Jeremy. For being as awesome as you are, we have a nice plaque that you can put up next to your whiteboards in the office.
Thank you so much. Oh, this is awesome. I'm going to display this today.
Yay, I'm excited.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.